Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and today is Stretch to Sketch. So this is the sketch we are using today, and I am done with my kit for this month. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this kind of more fall collection. This is for Avery's baby album. I'm still, even though working with other collections for the rest of the month, still want to keep working on his baby album. And I have this really cool, or not cool, but cute fall picture from the daycare of Bennett and Avery. So I definitely wanted to document that in his book, and I thought this very autumnal collection would be perfect for the tones that are in it. So I'm going through and just pulling out a couple papers. I'm not sure what my 12 by 12 is going to be. I am going to be squishing this sketch into another 8.5 by 11, but I'm thinking one of these more colorful pumpkin or leafy, those two will be one of the backgrounds. So I'm kind of just figuring out here. I need to use a more toned down paper for my 8.5 by 11 if it's going to be matted on such a busy multicolored 12 by 12. So I set the 12 by 12s aside. I'm still not sure which one I'm going to use, but I figured I could just create my 8.5 by 11 and then figure it out at the end. So I have this very toned down light green and white plaid as my base. That way I can add some more crazy multicolored patterns within the page and smaller layers, and then that'll tie back to the 12 by 12 at the end. I'm thinking this multicolor houndstooth could be a really fun skinnier border behind the photo. I definitely want to pull in all of those fun colors, but it's a lot, so I just want you to be able to see a little bit of it. And then now I'm going through branding strips and cut aparts and trying to see what I can use layer wise. I'm really trying to stick to my sketch in this original portion, even though the proportion has changed a lot because I am making it more narrow, but my photo is also larger. But I only have one photo instead of three, so it doesn't really look a whole lot like the sketch by the end. But I am trying to keep a lot of those same elements. I really like the scallop detail on the top and bottom of the larger paper that's matting the photo, and I like the details of the horizontal banding that go just underneath the scallop. So I'm thinking this houndstooth will be that larger paper, even though it's going to be skinnier since I have to squish it all down. And I am keeping the scallop detail by using my scallop border punch on the top and the bottom. And then I'll just plan on using some of those cut apart border strips as my horizontal detail banding once we kind of get there. But I'm trying to figure out proportionally how it's going to be. This sketch is very symmetrical, so I kind of want to take it away from being symmetrical, just to add a little bit of interest. So I'm kind of I'm thinking right now, I'm trying to see what it would look like if I did keep it symmetrical and had all this stuff in the photo in the middle. But as I get going, you'll see I kind of shift it to the side. And because I don't have a lot of real estate horizontally, I decided instead of having two florally clusters on the bottom of each side of the photo, I would just move the photo to one side and have a floral cluster to the other. So that's another way. I kind of ended up tweaking the sketch, but I still wanted to keep the same overlaying tone by having some kind of florally detail coming up the corner of the side that I am going to do. But I wanted one more layer between the photo and this very busy houndstooth. I wanted one that had the colors in it, but were just more simplified. So I'm doing this pumpkin print, and it's going to be a super skinny mat. That way you only get a little bit of the pumpkin's color around the edge, but it's mostly white. So that helps tone it down a little bit. And then I'll mat that onto the houndstooth. So I think I needed that little extra break. All of these papers are very busy, and I can already tell I'm going through all of the calmer green plaids like in the beginning of using this paper pad. I've only made a couple pages with it, and I'm using all the toned down papers first, so I'm going to be in trouble when I get down to like halfway through this pad and I only have like crazy pattern papers left over, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'm thinking if anything I'll just pull in some wood grains to use, which is usually my go-to solution to when I do that. But I am using one of the border strips that had text all the way around it. I wanted the text to kind of run off of either side so you can see it's like part of a larger band. But I did want the text that said Autumn Blessings to be center. That way that sentiment was legible. So I did just have that, and I'm going to trim that. So that's my band for the top of the sketch. And then for the bottom, there's not really another cut apart I wanted to use for the bottom, but there is this gold edge along the bottom of one of those squash branding pieces to the left there. So I'll end up just trimming off the gold and making 2 bands of that along the bottom. So that'll be the band detail on the bottom. But before I got there, I used this pattern paper to mat the photo in, and it had a bunch of pumpkins on it. So I went back and fussy cut a bunch of the pumpkins, and I was thinking maybe I could pile those up to be a really cute little pile of pumpkins as my floral detail. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do that. It kind of didn't look right how I had it, so I'm like, well, maybe I'll add some other layery bits behind it. I have this really cute little leaf piece from Jennifer. I think that's my last leaf piece, but I was like, oh, it's white. It'll help break up some of the color. And it's kind of autumnal with it being leaves, so I thought that could work out. But I think I need something a little bulkier to really hold up to all the pumpkins I want to layer up. So I kind of got stuck here in a minute for a second. So this is where I trimmed off the gold edging on that branding or that not branding strip, but that cut apart piece, that border piece, and I'm just trimming it into 2 and making 2 little gold bands across the bottom. So I like that. It pulls the gold in from the top, and it gives me that same horizontal band that the sketch had on the top and the bottom, but it's more simplified. It goes more towards kind of the style of the page. So I'm just trying to make it work for what I had. And now I'm going back to piling up the pumpkins to see. I'm popping the green pumpkin up on some foam, thinking maybe if there's a little bit of dimension within that corner, it'll help. And then I added that really sweet little banner, that little florally banner, to kind of beef it up a little bit. And then whenever I get stuck with thinking a cluster needs to be more layered, I've said this 1,000 times, I just add a couple of my go-to bits. So either a tag or a glassine bag or doily or 2 or all of those 3 things. So I had this little scrap of a glassine bag left over from a previous page because I only needed half of it. So I saved the other half. And so I'm thinking that's a cute little detail coming out of the side. And then this is where I decide to push my photo more to the left, since I have this floral cluster coming out to the right, and that will give me some more room to add some more layers. So once I did that, I had some room to add a doily. So I like that kind of texture. I'm loving the addition of the white because there is this a lot of busy pattern paper is happening, especially when it gets onto the 12 by 12. So I'm trying to plan ahead and be like, I'm going to need some white calmer areas to kind of give your eye a place to rest. So that was my thinking. And I really thought this pumpkin pile was going to be a lot more. I cut a lot of pumpkins thinking I would use all of them. But when I piled more, it just became less believable. But I think with this little mix here with just the 3 pumpkins, I think that looks cute. So I'm just going to leave that. It kind of started looking weird the more pumpkins I added after that. But I did want some color or something else other than just the white elements. So I went in and used a little journaling piece that again has that gold edging. So that kind of brings the gold detail out there to the right as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm going through to see if there's any other cut aparts that I could use. I did start incorporating the gold. So I did want a larger gold element on this before it got to the 12 by 12. So I am matting my 8.5 by 11 with this golden white houndstooth, just so there's a subtle bit of gold all the way around the edge, and that'll help tie in and we'll coordinate all the other smaller gold elements I'm using on the page. So technically it's slightly larger than 8.5 by 11, but I have the ability to just mat it on my 12 by 12 since that was the plan all along, so I don't really have to worry about that. But I guess if you were strictly putting it in an 8.5 by 11 album, you could have just trimmed down the green a little bit more to mat on an 8.5 by 11 background. But I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. I'm not gutting this houndstooth. The only thing I really like about it is the tiny pops of gold. But there's so many paper. This collection, this paper pad's super cute. But there's a lot of papers I'm like, I know I'm going to have a hard time using you. So when I'm using you, I'm not gutting. which is weird than my normal, but you can tell by how much I love a collection by how much I gut it, which is why Felicity Jane is always gutting everything. But yeah, so now that I kind of decided to tweak it a little bit, I have this photo kind of on an angle to the left with the cluster to the right. I have this extra pumpkin, so even though it wasn't in the original sketch, I am adding a second cluster of pumpkins at the top, just so my little photo is kind of balanced, and I wanted more than just that one little pumpkin cluster since I took away the cluster from the left side of the photo that was in the sketch. So I'm gonna do the same thing and just pile up 3 little pumpkins up there, which I think is really cute. And then that's pretty much will help balance the little pumpkin clusters. And then I was thinking I could use some little gold hearts, and I have Ronnie's whole little container of miscellaneous hearts that she sent me. And I don't always get to use the gold ones. I really reach for the black and white ones a lot, but she sent me some gold and wood grain ones as well. So I'm going in there and sneaking in a couple of the gold hearts so I can have a little heart cluster in both of those areas, and that helps bring in more gold. Which I think really helps with the autumnal feel, but I really want the gold to be cohesive throughout the whole page, so that helps. And I just knew I needed I needed something else to make it more interesting. It's still looking too plain for me. But part of that, I think, is using a larger photo on a smaller layout. It restricts you even more. So I was really trying to work around that, but I was determined to use this photo with these products for this challenge. So I did it to myself. But now I'm kind of stuck. So I'm like, well, let me go ahead and put it on the 12 by 12, and maybe I can see from there if there's anything else I need to do. And pretty quickly I realized I want to do it on the more darker green background with all of the other pumpkins. And I usually like to mat this 8.5 by 11 more towards one side or the other, but because my sketch is more symmetrical and I didn't make my 8.5 by 11 symmetrical, I decided the least I could do was mat this in the middle of the 12 by 12 to kind of give you that symmetrical look. And I got stuck here for a while. I decided to put this aside and make another layout, but I came back to it because I'm like, it's not done yet. It needs something else. It's too plain. And I realized I didn't have a title or anything. It's pretty obvious that they're fall photos, so I feel like I don't need to say too much, but now that it is on the 12 by 12, it gives me another opportunity to branch that gold out and kind of connect to the 12 by 12 with the 8.5 by 11. So I decided just to add a title in some gold along the side, just to help fill it in and add some extra details. So I'm just calling this fall picture. I didn't have half the letters I needed, so I'm just trying to make it work. I'm using a U upside down as an A because they're very skinny U's, so you can still kind of see that it's an A. I think I trimmed a I from something. I can't remember what I trimmed the I from. I think it was a number 1 or something. I made the J a T and an F an E, and I didn't have an exclamation point, so I used a dash and one of those little star stickers as an exclamation point. So a lot of make it work with this chipboard, but I was determined. It's such a fun font, and I really think this gold matches the gold I used in the layout really well, so I am determined to make it work. So I'm just going to put my title down really quick. I just called it Fall Picture, and then there are a couple like chevrons, like little arrow details on these sticker sheets. So now that I did add this title to the left, and I was still thinking my embellishment clusters were still too plain, I decided to go in with the chevron pieces and add 2 little chevrons to both pumpkin clusters, which I think also helps. It also adds more dimension and ties in my alphabet, which is all good. I still think this layout is kind of very plain, but I think sometimes that's okay, especially when I'm working on an 8.5 by 11 like format with such a large picture. I think part of it is just the collection having busier papers. This is just way out of my wheelhouse, but it turned out cute. It was different than what I'd been doing, so I had to like readjust how I was working. But I think I'm almost done here with the title, and then you'll see me go in and add the little chevron bits. But I think that's pretty much it. There is a little corner of journaling available if my sister does want to write anything about these photos. Next to that lower cluster, there's enough room to like make a little note if she wants to date it or say where these photos were taken, which it was just at my mom's daycare center. So if she wants to do that, she can. But I'm just adding these little chevron bits now. But there was a lot of just staring at this layout and being like, it's too plain and I don't know what to do. But I think this is a cute little extra detail. So there's one cluster. And I think I did the other cluster already. I guess I must have. Yep, I did. So this is what I ended up with. I'm trying to remember if I do anything. Oh, I'm adding gold Heidi Swap color shine too. So that's another thing that will help tie in the 8.5 with the 12 by 12 is having splatter kind of going over all of the layers. So I am adding that on the diagonal as well. I forgot I did that. I was like, there's still more that I did. I can't remember what I did. But yeah, I just added some gold Heidi Swap color shine. So that was it. This was a challenging one for me, as like simplified as the sketch was. I think I just bit off more than I could chew by doing such a large photo. But I had a lot of fun with it, and hopefully you can see how I use that sketch to get to this, which I feel like is very different. But make sure you check out everyone else playing with Stretch to Sketch. They'll be linked in the description. You can see how they used the sketch. I'm definitely interested to see if anyone else did 8.5 by 11, so I can see how they did it. Because I definitely made it harder on myself by using a bigger photo, I think. But these are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.